Hey coaches, before we get started, check this out. Whether you're at the top or grassroots trying to juggle work, life, and soccer, here's a little help from Soccer Coach Weekly with ready-to-go drills that have been trusted since 2006. Here's the deal though. Soccer Dad Pod listeners, you will get 50% off a full year of premium access. So go to the Soccer Coach Weekly link in the show notes and use code SDP50. That's SDP50 for 50% off your premium subscription. Plan, fast, coach, smart. Now, let's go. Soccer Dad Pod.
Coming in with the timpanis.
Yes.
Hot. I like it.
You like it?
Mm-hmm.
A little different vibe.
Yeah.
No outlaw country today.
Nope.
I got my outlaw country fill out and back from Innsbruck. Check that out. Horns too. Something totally different. If you're wondering, like, man, that sounds like music I don't understand at a restaurant that I can't read the menu. Super dark, one of those things.
Yeah.
It's all about vibe. You're right. You would be right. This one, I don't know who sent it to me. They were like, dude, you'll love this. Just play it in your car. It's called a Tiger Trot. That's what it sounds
Tiger
like.
Trot. Okay, yeah.
Write that down. You're right.
I am.
If you're in your car, just hit pause and say, hey, Siri, Tiger Trot. My phone just picked it up. There we go. Yeah, it just told me. It actually just said, artist, Leroy Conroy. You're correct. We're back. Another episode. Today's going to be a fun one. We got one of the true local OGs here joining us. This is second time around. You know what? This is like 1.5. 1.22 times around, because last time there was 5.
True. Yeah.
It was 1 of 5. So now we get them all to ourselves, so it'll be fun. You read your dashboard. You know who we got today. We're going to bring them on in just a little bit. In the meantime, we're going to run, kind of get caught up on a few things. First things first, last episode that we released at the time of this recording would have been Bobby Smith from the NASL days. Bobby was a referral. Now I'll call him a referral, because we've got a few people that are like, really good about sending us names and numbers. This one was compliments of the Double D, Dan Donegan. And imagine that, he sent me a Jersey guy. Trenton, no less. You were out, Zach, or you and Jared were both out, so I had to go to the bench, and luckily the bench is pretty deep around here.
It's true.
So my two co-hosts for that one was the one and 2 onlys, Steve Petcher and Denny Vanninger. They jumped on because apparently they knew this guy, and that got a little interesting. Talk about the old school throwback conversations. Bobby is. I was incredibly impressed just with the enthusiasm and kind of the volume of his persona. It was awesome. They were talking about the old days, talking about Jersey versus St. Louis, talking about his own experience, because he's one of the few Americans that can lay claim to having been on the same field, wore the same jersey, and played alongside of Pelé. So he talked about some of those stories, and then him and Denny talked about a little bit of the players' union shenanigans. It seems like an issue that is not going away.
No.
The American players were fighting the foreign players, and that was in 1975 and 6 and 7. And let's see, I would have been a wee little dude.
I would have been not born yet.
Yeah, fuck off.
Sorry.
Yeah, good job.
Now, to be fair, I was born the year after that.
Oh.
So I was born in the 70s like you.
Yeah.
Just a little.
Look, I was 75. It's not as if I was like...
No, you were 75, I was 78. You don't remember any of the times that Denny Vanninger or Bobby Smith or...
How do you know that?
Patch were talking
pretty
about.
Advanced. And
you weren't watching the NASL then, I can tell you that.
No, I think it was Soccer Made in Germany still.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize what that was. Anyway, go check it out. Great episode. A lot of fun old stories, and having Patch and Denny on the show to kind of tie it all together was a lot of fun. Brings us to, real quick, our flywheel points of the day, which, reminder, flywheel is I told you guys, if you got a building, you got anything where people are on their cell phones and you want to get people off, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a retail, sporting complex, etc., you need to improve the Wi-Fi tech services, etc., through mobile. Hit up Flywheel. I'll put it in the show notes today because here's the bigger issue. The people that are on their phones and searching, they're going to get better service. You're going to free up some bandwidth. And, oh, by the way, you get paid. So if you want to learn more, go to the show notes. You'll see Flywheel link there. Click it, and we'll pretty self-explanatory from there on out. So, Flywheel points of the day. What do you got? You're first.
So, kind of a sad note, and not soccer related. When I was growing up, obviously the Cardinals and Cubs were huge rivalries, but I played second base all the way through, and so my favorite players played second base. Tommy Herr on the Cardinals, and my favorite player of all time was Ryan Sandberg for the Cubs.
Explain that to me.
I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like,
Was Washington, Missouri so far out that you couldn't get the Cardinal games on television?
No.
WGN was available.
I liked the Cardinals a lot, and like I said, Tommy Herr was my first fan favorite guy.
But
once I started watching baseball more and getting into the game, I just liked the way he played. I liked the fact that he always was with the Cubs.
I'll give you that. He had a little bit of at the time. He was a little older. RFK or Junior. Kennedy Jr., the good-looking one.
Ken Griffey?
No, the one that died in the airplane.
John F. Kennedy.
Yes, thank you.
Jr., yeah.
God damn, it's been a minute. He had that. He was a good-looking dude.
Yeah.
He was a great ball player.
He was a great ball player.
And Cubs sucked, so therefore you had to love something about him.
And I don't know if it was just kind of like anti-Cardinals, too, that I liked him, but I just always did. And so when he passed away this week, it was kind of holy shit, I forgot, all those days.
Who was it? Andre Dawson.
Andre Dawson, the Hawk, was also on that same time frame. And
oh my God, you're ripping out the nicknames. I mean, that's a pretty obvious, popular nickname.
Yeah, it's funny because when people ask me now, they see my Cardinals banner in the back of my background and like, oh, you a big Cardinals fan? I'm like, no, I'm really not. I root for them if I'm in a bar that happens to be on, but I'm not going to watch them at home. I don't go to the games.
Yeah.
I support them, but I was a huge baseball fan growing up.
Yeah. I'm going to bring my point, my first point, because I got two today. Make sure
I've got a couple more in the pipe if we need to.
I'm going to jump back to the world of soccer because apparently Soccer Dad Pod talks about soccer
sometimes
every now and then. I want to give a huge shout out to our boy Mackay. Been a fan of the kid forever, but fan of the family. We know, his path, routed down through Gallagher, proceeded to embarrass City on field 1 at Soccer Park years ago. And Lutz was like, oh no, I got to get that kid. And fast forward to, again, at the time of this recording last night, City SC plays the EPL.
Aston Villa.
Hammers Villa. The kid gets pretty much the whole second half. Does well. Looks good. And this on the heels of last week, rumors starting to swirl in the world of Twittersville that Watford is interested in him. You start to piece it all together. Leading scorer in MLS 2. He's getting looks at the national team level. There's rumors about Watford. He gets in on the first team last night against Villa. Gets 45 minutes or so. You just every now and then you're like, okay, the stars are aligning. Couldn't happen to a better kid.
I agree, and I just we talked about this on a previous episode about how many other kids can we bring up over the next couple of weeks because we're not going to the playoffs, so might as well.
I was thinking about this too because an individual friend of mine, and I'm not going to name names, because I've mentioned this on the show before about the state of the first team and the frustration from the fan base, specifically the soccer purist fan base.
Yeah.
You understand losing. but you don't really accept it when you don't really connect with it. Therefore, if you're gonna lose, give me something I can connect with, and and that's a good PR move. Front office, Mackay.
Yeah.
Like let's see some St. Louis bodies on
It's all
on
contractual, is my understanding.
I get it.
Yeah. But the only other point I was going to make is
What you got?
Wayne Rooney, not Wayne Brady. Wayne Rooney is at Birmingham City coaching again.
Really?
And Tom Brady is an investor in said Birmingham City.
I saw the previews to their reality show.
Yeah.
Really well produced.
Yeah. And he is questioning the work ethic of the head coach already. And obviously if you follow Wayne Rooney's career as a coach, it's not been...
It's shit.
Yeah,
Call it what it is.
It's not been good.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny that now we have, the GOAT from the NFL side making an investment like the McElhaney and Reynolds crew and already calling out as a coach.
You know what, though?
So I don't see Birmingham City doing what Wrexham did, is all I'm getting at. And they're not in the same situation, but...
I've got polar opposites feelings about what is potentially going on there. Either A, Tom Brady is the ultimate competitor as evidenced by his NFL career, and he's being serious about it. Or the potentially more realistic option is B, Hollywood is saying, you want your team value up, create some controversy. There's
clicks.
Nothing better than Tom Brady fighting Wayne Rooney. Anybody that didn't know Birmingham City at yesterday,
do now.
They'll know it's now, right?
Yeah, it's a different approach. I mean, the Wrexham group was all about positivity and lifting things up, and it wasn't about, even now in their promotion to the championship, there's still many posts about how sad it is they had to let certain people go, and it's just a different vibe on this Birmingham City thing.
Quick side note, I got a message on YouTube because our shows are on YouTube. People go check it out, subscribe there too.
We are very good looking.
I know,
which is why we do podcasts.
I know. I got a girdle offer for sponsorships.
Yeah.
They found Soccer Dad Bod.
Spanx reached out.
Yeah, it was Dad Bod. Anyway, no, it was somebody saying, hey, since they're promoted to the championship, you need to bring Wayne back.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun.
From the turf, right?
Yeah.
The most famous bartender in Wrexham.
True.
We had him on early days. Here's my other point of the day. This one's really kind of funny. It's going to be a little bit off the rails. I've been dabbling in the Reddit sphere, just having some fun with picture posts primarily.
Yeah.
And it's if you know Reddit, you know that there's subreddits. And basically it's rooms in which you get to stick on topic to a degree. Well, the room I was in was St. Louis.
I love that one. I really do.
Well, I got a badge for this one because they're like, you're the top poster of the day. I'm like, what the hell? And I go in there and I notice like 75,000, engagements. And I'm like, what is going on? I put a picture out of a lovely St. Louis pizza. And it was a rectangular pizza.
I saw I didn't know that was your post.
That was me, baby.
Oh, that's hilarious.
and the title was, do you prefer your STL pie circle or rectangle? Now, I'm just going to rip into a few of these really, really, really quickly because the responses are brilliant. Let's see here. Circle, cut into squares. Give me circle so I can snag one piece that's the size of a penny. Let's see here. Where are the haters? I want to get to the hater posts. I prefer good. Don't really care about the shape. Does not matter as long as it's delicious. Where is the one? I don't care as long as it's from New York. Not that shit. That was a good one. And let's see. Oh my God, there's so many more. I don't care, but don't cut my circle pie into squares. Look, I'm looking at you, Dominoes. That was a good one. I prefer. Oh, here we go. I prefer my STL pie be from New York. Not a lot of people like that person. And then my favorite also, this is my second favorite actually. I prefer actual pizza. So, moral of the story is if you want some cheap entertainment on all things St. Louis, go check out Reddit subgroup r St. Louis. And I'll let you go seek out my production page post there because I put the food posts out there, and it just shakes them up. I was also the one, you might have saw it, the one where I said the best breakfast in St. Louis, hands down. I'll die on this hill.
Well, yeah.
Egg. The pork belly Benedict.
Yep.
Well, apparently Southwest Diner has a legion of Army infantry people. They were like, "You're a turd," and they came at me hard over bacon and eggs. Can you believe that? Hey, we're gonna take a quick break. Soccer Dad Pod. Do us a favor if you don't mind. Just hit a break before hit the pause button before the break. Like, review, follow, share. Drop one of those 4 things out there into the what is it? The algo sphere. And it would really help us continue to bring these shows. Going to roll out Tiger Trottin'. When we come back, we're going to be talking to PB with JB and ZL. On the flip side, see ya. All right, we're back. Going a different direction.
Yeah, back in the old vibe.
Yeah. There it is. Have you listened to this one yet?
It's Tyler Childers.
New album.
Ooh.
Dropped last Friday.
No, but I will.
The Tyler Childers. The name of the album is actually kind of totally makes sense for him, being from the holler of Kentucky. It's called Snipe Hunter. This song's called Oneida. It's really, really good. If you're a Tyler Childers fan, go check it out.
I like it.
A little insight to, not that everybody's on this pod primarily for the soccer stuff, but we give them a full, gamut of pop culture. You know who Rick Rubin is, right?
Yeah.
LL Cool J, Beastie Boys,
yeah.
Producer du jour. He's the one that brought Johnny Cash back from the ashes and did his album Hurt. Did a lot of metal bands, big stuff. He did the Avett Brothers, I and Loving You.
Okay.
He's the producer of this one.
I like it.
True story. Okay, everybody's like, okay, whatever. We're back. Soccer Dad Pod. You read your dashboard. You know who we got today. We're going to roll them on right now. We're just going to get right to it. Coming back to the show for round 2. First time around, he was with a panel talking all things merger, super merger in the world of youth club soccer. But here by his lonesome today, having some cold Zwickle Lights. We forgot to give Urban a little shout out, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Zwickle Lights, which I believe is the best craft light beer in the metro.
So my dad came over the other day just to say hi.
We're off the tracks again.
We are.
Yeah. Good.
And he had brought over some Dog and Pony Show Brewery, which we've talked about a couple times in the show. Ooh. My cousin's brewery up in Detroit.
Taste test?
We didn't do a taste test,
Blind.
but General Pilsner is their kind of their light beer. But we were drinking. They have a cider that's gin infused, so it's very heavy flavors. And then I gave him a Zwickle Light. He's like, "Well, I didn't know this even existed."
Yes.
And it's great.
Love the story. Is there a punchline?
No, it's good.
That it was good.
It's good.
All right, good. All right, Pat Barry, how's it going, man?
Good to be with you too. It's going great.
You okay? So let's get it out of the way. You were hearing us talk, and you chimed in. Rectangle, square, or circle pie, and is it okay if it's St. Louis style?
St. Louis style is okay. Don't care how you cut it. Quality matters.
Okay.
I think we should talk more about frozen pizzas from St. Louis because
that is a secret weapon.
It is. I grew up with Mama Lucia's. That was what we had growing up. And I still like Mama Lucia's. You can get it at Costco. You can get it at a lot of other places. Now, Dogtown Pizza is where I'm spending more time.
See, over on the east side, I got that 99-cent Totino's.
Yeah, we did too.
Can't beat it.
Listen, in college I had the 99-cent Totino's.
You know exactly what I'm talking about too.
100%.
It's like, why?
The little square cubed pepperonis.
Yes, that, and then the crust underneath had the dimples.
Yes, it was airy. That's the way, because you could put it in the microwave.
That's 2 a.m. after a lot of beers.
Exactly.
Fold it in half, put toppings in the middle, and fold
And-
it. Oh, look, I got a sandwich. It's a taco. It's a pizza taco.
Pizza rolls.
Favorite St. Louis style pizza? Where are you going?
For me, there's no question, Faraci's Pizza.
100%.
No question.
Just that comes up often. Well, since you're here, maybe we should talk about soccer a little bit because
Sure.
you've had your finger in the mix for a long time. Let's go backwards in time. What high school did you go to? What club? Give us a quick bio, and then we'll obviously navigate up through the trenches and get into some fun stuff.
And everybody will judge you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. If they haven't already on the pizza thing. So grew up in Webster as a player, extremely average to below average, I would say. So my playing career is nothing to write home about. But went to CBC High School, St. Louis University. Didn't play at SLU.
Did you play at CBC?
No, I got cut my freshman year. That's a whole story. It's kind of why I got into the game, to be honest with you. That's the whole story behind it.
Terry's listening. Do we need to have
is.
words with him?
No. The net of the story is I deserved to get cut my freshman year. I went in unprepared, but that forced me in a direction that ended up working out great for me.
So the passion for the game, because obviously you spent big chunks of your life, in the weeds of it. You didn't do the work. It wasn't a driving factor. You get cut. So what's the draw? Why? What was the gravitational pull back to the game?
Yeah, so I was a huge fan of the indoor game. We didn't have pro outdoor at the time in St. Louis, and so I was because of my parents, a big fan of the Steamers. Growing up watching that, and at the time it was I started high school around '90, and it was the Storm, and I had done something with the guys in the front office to try to get our school to go, grade school to go. And when I got cut, I got an offer from the head of sales, Tim Schuler, to come be a runner. Back then it was a thing. They don't call it that anymore. But a runner on game day. You just show up and you did basically anything they asked you to do. Clean the locker room, run tickets to the box office, that kind of thing.
Go buy cigs.
Whatever it was. I actually had to pick up a player from an airport. There's a great story about that too. So anyway, I did that. And I ended up realizing that I just loved the business side of the game.
So the early you do that as intern or whatever.
Yep.
Where's the transition? Where do you kind of make the jump into kind of activating it as a career?
So that's the crazy part of the story. So it happened kind of immediately. And so I started working every day after school. I would leave CBC and hitch a ride, sometimes literally hitching down to the arena on Oakland, which has a special place in my heart. But so I started doing it every day, and then on the weekends, and then once I went to St. Louis U, I worked full-time for the team and still went to school and got my degree. And so it was pretty immediate because I got great opportunities from people who thought of me and put their faith in me, and I'm always grateful for that.
So shifting into kind of the maybe the more corporate side of the business, what did that look like? And then when was the transition to more the club side?
So for high school and college, I worked for the teams and really was fortunate to be obviously very heavy on the business side in a supportive role, obviously. But also because I became connected with the head coach for most of those years, Daryl Duran, I was able to stick around the soccer side too, right? And so was getting the taste of the game, which was definitely a big part of what was in me, but also the business side. And then there was a short break. I went into real estate and construction. Man, the older I get, the harder this is. Sometime in my mid-20s, I'm going to say. And then I only was on the periphery, really, of soccer, coaching for sure on the youth side. But then I got a call from Steve Petra, actually, and the merger had happened. Things were, we talked about it on the pod, things were shaky, and so they wanted somebody with some business focus, and so that's how I got in.
Go ahead, Zach.
No, I like the story, and I think, we talk about off the mic a lot, and this is going to, I'm sure rattle some cages, but a lot of clubs in the area and across the country are run by soccer guys that have no idea how to run a business. And some of those are
Who knew?
Very clear and some are not. And the fact that, Scott Gallagher is now over 21 years running, very well and staying top of mind. In fact, I think it was the Gold Cup not U.S. Mexico, but U.S. Guatemala, maybe.
Yeah, the semi.
John Strong, pregame, was talking about how, because it was the game that was in St. Louis, and he said, I remember growing up, and if I saw Gallagher on our schedule, St. Louis Scott Gallagher, I knew we were done. And he said, then I got into college, and I knew if I was playing a guy that was on the roster that was from St. Louis, we were probably going to lose as well. And so I want to ask you, Pat, a little bit about the legacy of not just the soccer side of it, but you can't do that without the business side operating as well and keeping those coaches paid and keeping the facilities up and running after all the flooding. And we can talk about floods, if we want to, but
let's.
I just want to hear from you what it was like to come into situations where you're working with soccer guys, not business guys, and how you were able to kind of, make that kind of work.
That was probably my greatest challenge in the beginning, is coming in and I'll never forget my first meetings with Dale Schilly, Steve Petcher, Kevin Kalish, and they're looking at me like, all right, man. I knew them all, but I didn't know them that well. I certainly like I do now, and I knew going in that I had to earn their trust, right? Because they're the soccer guys. I was, but in way smaller way than they were, and so we had to figure it out. A motivating factor was, by the way, we don't have money for payroll, so we got to figure it out quick.
Did you write on the whiteboard EBITDA, and then you spend a week breaking that down?
I didn't have time for that. I literally had to figure out how are we going to make payroll, right? But the credit to those guys, they're among the few in the country that cared about the business. And when you say that soccer clubs are run by soccer people, I'm not shy about saying in my 11 years of running that club, which, by the way, was an honor and a privilege to have the same responses. Anywhere I would go, there was so much reverence for St. Louis and St. Louis Scott and for the Scott Gallagher brand. But they figured it out. But the stories are endless about clubs who are run by guys who have great intentions, have absolutely no idea what they're doing on the business side. And some of them make it, some of them don't. We're blessed in St. Louis to have multiple clubs that are run the right way.
So let's do a quick compare contrast though, because you talk about the financial struggles of the club at the entry, and obviously that ship was righted. Go back a little bit though, because the indoor world post Steamers, obviously they folded, then it was rejuvenated, then the Storm. Mm-hmm. Indoor soccer. You talk about like financial instability. There are a few leagues that are more financially unstable historically than MISL, MASL, whatever the letters were at the time. Can you give a little bit of compare contrast as to maybe some of the telltale signs or issues as to why maybe the indoor world struggled? And then coming in and evaluating, this legendary club that, we say 21 years, but really we're going back to roughly the mid-'70s.
I was being judicious by using the
sure.
the merger date.
08, right?
Because there's a lot of club people that are listening to the show. Can you talk about maybe some of the things that were really apparent as far as like these are financial issues that are maybe unique to operating a soccer team or a club, not at a granular level, 10,000 foot.
Yeah, man, there's a lot there. But from an, I'll say, professional indoor perspective, I was really fortunate to work from about 1990 until early 2000s in the indoor game, and that was all when MLS hit, and it went from ownership that was suspect, probably not enough resources, lack of talent in the front office, but all the best players because they had nowhere else to go. And then MLS comes, and then things start to change. And then the indoor game just didn't do a good enough job of finding their spot, right, and owning that and investing in that. And so it's clearly declined over the years to the point where it is now. But, I think looking back from a youth club, I'll switch to a youth club perspective, the fundamentals of business are absent. And so one of the biggest challenges in youth soccer is, and we all know it, we pay club fees for our kids. You pay them early,
Yep.
And you got to manage that cash because come March, April, May, there's no money coming in.
Right.
But you got to get to June when people start paying, or July, whenever it is. And so my first year, I joined in September, and I mean, they were already saying, we're going to run out of money. We're going to run out of money. And so we had to figure it out. And so that's a huge issue, is that if there's just no budgeting, there's not enough planning, you can get yourself in trouble real quick. And I can't tell you the number of clubs, and I work with youth clubs now on a consulting basis, and they just say, well, there's money in the account. They literally manage their business by the bank account, which anybody in the world will tell you, don't manage your business by the bank account. So that's a huge part of it. And they don't want to invest in that because it's not on the field. They don't want to invest in people.
So let's stay in the nerdy econ world for a second here. No, I dig this stuff.
Well,
But before you start, I think people might be like, oh, I don't really care about the economics. Yes, you do.
Yeah, because who's complaining about pay to play?
It's the parents.
Right?
Yeah.
No. I see what you did there.
Yeah. No.
Nice
Let's
catch there,
keep
Zach.
going. Let's keep going.
So when you start to you realize that kind of the stated fear is come April, May, we might be at zero or negative. How did you approach that? Was it a combination of we got to be frugal? Was it, hey, we need to look at maybe other revenue streams? We got to figure out ways to spread out our payments. Was it all of the above? What was maybe some of the action steps that started to alleviate that bleed out that most clubs experience come May 1st?
I think the first year it was such a crisis that it was what I now do with companies who are struggling that I work with is you got to manage your cash, you got to slow your payments down, and you got to first of all, you got to put something on paper that shows you what you're really in for, so you know it, and then you can start making decisions. But it was be really frugal. There were some staffing reductions because that had been not the fault of Kevin, Petch, or Dale. There was just people that were still there that just needed to go. And so Petch lovingly called me the hatchet man in my first 6 months, which we won't get into that. But yeah, we had to reduce some expenses. We had to slow payments and all those things. And then once we got through the first year, and Jim Cavanaugh and Tom Strunk had joined at that time, we said, okay, let's take a breath and let's start to get this right. And so it was grow revenue, and it was change how our cash comes in and understand it better.
So let me ask you a question then, because like in the world of marketing, there's this theory in which for every dollar you spend on marketing, and all companies know they need marketing, but nobody wants to spend money on that. And the reason is, for every dollar that you spend, the assumption is 50% of it, 50 cents of it works, and the other 50 cents is wasted. However, you don't know which is which. You don't know what works. So in your world, to increase revenue outside of just player fees, you needed some visible traction. Where did you start? How did you guys start to increase? Because why I brought up marketing is one of the easiest ways, grow the club, right? More kids, more head count, scale. So my question is, what was, maybe some of the early tips and tricks that helped make the transition green?
Yeah, we could be here all night. So growing the club and growing the numbers of kids in the club is definitely, it's the fastest and the quickest way to grow your revenue. Okay. However, with that comes a lot of problems, because if you don't have appropriate staffing, and in some of these areas, and we're talking about outside of St. Louis, they can't get coaches that know what they're doing. And there's a couple of specific clubs I'm thinking of that I worked with in Kentucky and other places. They can find somebody to stand there, but they don't know soccer balls around. So adding kids is helpful, but you have to do that really smartly. And so for us, it's what I used to call ancillary programs. So if your kid wants extra training, let's provide a value. We're not just going to collect money because we need the money. Let's give a value for that and make sure. And so whether it's tournaments or specialty training or things like that, that's really what we focused on. And it worked. It took time though. It's not an overnight thing.
Well, because you just said tournaments. I immediately think of Mitch Boniak and what they were doing across the river, and that was a strategic move to fold them in at a much higher level. And for those of you listening, Mitch is in charge of basically all of SLSG tournaments, right? So those are the big tournaments. Let me ask one more question. I know Zach's chomping at the bit here.
I'm biting at the bit.
Yeah, Jared chomps, you're biting.
No.
Anyway, here's my question. You name dropped two guys a second ago that came in the year after roughly this all happened. For those of you that know, Jim Cavanaugh and Tom Strunk are absolute titans in the business world, period, globally, and they happen to be our own St. Louisans, right? Worldwide tech. When they come to the table through the board or whatever the org was, what did you feed off of them? What did you learn from them in the process that transferred over into the growth and the success of the club at a pretty rapid clip?
I tell people all the time that I think I learned more from those two guys in 11 years, with all due respect to my parents and everybody else, than I did from everybody else in my life.
Don't forget your wife.
Yes. I don't know. No, for sure. But what I think what they ultimately empowered me to do was to put a focus on the business, and they reinforced that when they were with the staff, and that. We talk about pay to play, and that became a huge issue during my time with the club, and we didn't shy away from that. And I used to tell people all the time, look, if you don't want us to make this a business, then either the club's not going to be here, or they're going to get in financial trouble, and they're going to come to you for more money. So the better job we do on the business side, the more efficient we're going to be with your money, and we're going to have to ask for less. But if you complain about that, and you want to be at a club that doesn't care about that, I guarantee it's going to cost you more money. But what Jim and Tom brought was really, they allowed us to focus on that and not hide from that.
Yeah.
And their business practices and how they build culture and leadership is second to none. And they brought that in a big way. And that allowed us to develop people like Jeremy Allenbaugh, and just, I'll stop there, but just go down the list. Scott McDaniel, Kevin Kalish, all those guys, they all got better because of that. And we had, I put that staff during our heyday against any youth club in the country, and they were the best.
Well, because as I started off my earlier question, you had soccer guys and business guys. If the business is running well, the soccer guys can just focus on soccer, which is what
that was my sales pitch.
The people are paying for, right? So, yeah, I guess my follow-up question to this particular topic is, there is that negative connotation around the pay-to-play, and I guess people are comparing it to, I honestly don't know what they're comparing it to, because there isn't a sport out there today in this country
that is 100% free.
That's free.
Yeah.
Unless you want to play in the street or at the park, or there are programs out there from City and Gallagher that, sponsor, things within different areas of the community. But on the whole, if you want a decent experience, you're going to have somebody who's paid to do that experience for you, a paid coach, a paid trainer, et cetera. So I get the frustration, but I think it's a little passé and a little just lazy to call it, just pay to play. I just remember growing up, there was select soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And that has now become what people call collect soccer.
Right.
And so can you talk about that expansion? Because back then, in early 2000s, there were maybe 5 clubs in St. Louis, and now there's
actually 30 to 40. I just asked that question today at a SISA meeting. Yeah.
That's insane. And if you look at the deltas between what it costs to go to club number 30 versus Gallagher or Fuse or SDA or fill in the blank, the deltas are pretty small.
Yeah, when you net it out, and even back 5 years ago when I was there, we used to have this discussion all the time, is that the difference is hundreds of dollars, not thousands.
No.
Because some people charge for this and ask you to pay extra for that. It's just all over the board. And, ultimately, when I first started, it felt icky because I had that old school thinking like, oh, man, we can't ask for more money and, all those things. And I had to change my thinking because, like you said, where else in life and anything in life do you go and do it for free other than go to a city or county park and hike? Everything costs money because everything has expenses. And so where I think Where I think it crosses the line, and this doesn't really happen in St. Louis, although maybe it's starting a little bit, but is where people own the clubs privately, charge ridiculous amounts because they've had success, and that's where the bad name comes in. I don't really think it's St. Louis, to be honest, because we're still a lot of nonprofits running, and there's certain guidelines and restrictions you got to follow. But there's a club in Chicago that I can think of that right off the top of my head that is owned privately, and in its heyday, literally said, "Come to tryouts, write a check for $2,500. We'll tell you if you made it," and then it starts from there. And I think that's where a bad reputation started. So it's out there.
Isn't it also one of those things, though, where you're really managing the investor expectation, that being the parent, right? Mm-hmm. How did you, as the business guy, as you're creating these pricing structures and the fees and everything else, because, again, you've got soccer guys that are on the field taking care of the heavy lifting with the kids and the balls and the cones, right? They are not trained to be brand specialists or marketing specialists or even messengers, right? So when it came to elevating fees and elevating services and bells and whistles, because on the other end of that check is a parent that most parents, especially when they're in the club world, they think that when they're signing those checks that it equates to scholarship. That's the simplistic, linear relationship in their head. And then it becomes, the reality or the miss becomes apparent as they get older. But how do you message that? How did you teach the team, or maybe Jim and Tom helping to message that out? How do you justify the increase?
For me, it was a kind of a simple business concept that if what you're selling is a virtually unattainable result, you're going to fail. So we need to be selling a result that is attainable and that people are going to want, right? And so I think for almost all of my career there, and now when I'm coaching, it's the same thing. It's you should be looking for the experience and for your kids to grow and learn. A very small percentage are going to go on and do amazing things and play at the pro level, and that's exciting, and that does attract people. There's no question about it. That's marketing. But you need to be looking for who's coaching your team, how well is the club run, and is your experience good as a parent and a kid? And if it is, that's what you're paying for. And I think we did have a shift, and I think we were one of the first ones to do that. It's not perfect, and I still think there's a lot of parents that are writing that check thinking, I'm going to get this money back.
Yeah.
And some may, but for me, I mean, I've got a daughter that plays. She's a U15 player, going to be a U15 player. All I care about is she's around good kids, around good people, and she's learning those life lessons that we all got to learn. Beyond that, we'll see what happens.
Well, let me bring this up real quick, because I'm just straight to the homepage of the club, because we touched on it in our last conversation with the rest of the team. St. Louis Scott Gallagher Soccer Club. Our mission is to build the best club in the country, one that positively impacts the development of our players on and off the field. You were kind of part of this messaging, and to me, I read it kind of knowing the landscape, fairly well, I would like to think. Development of our players on and off the field. That's the telling part of it to me, because it feels as if you guys were super cognizant of what you just touched on, in so much that these people that did expect an ROI from a soccer perspective, for most, it's not going to come. So how important is that mission statement to you, not only being related to Scott Gallagher and putting it on the banner there, but have you carried that forward into your current operations? And is it an extended mantra?
There's no question. I mean, I would not have been there 11 years if we didn't really believe what you just read was true, and we didn't care about all of it. I think being in the game for as long as I have, I think there's a lot of people that pay lip service to that. They put it on their website because it looks good and they're supposed to. But what I would recommend people do is scratch the surface and see what are they really doing, right? And are kids in the club given the opportunity to learn about those who are the less fortunate than them, and are they doing things to help them? Those kinds of things. And so that was a huge part for us. And I think our staff grew to realize, A, it was really fun. We saw the difference in the kids. and it filled you back up. I mean, the games are the games, and it's a grind, and you're exhausted at the end of the year. But those are the things that, in my opinion, filled our tank back up, and I'm really, really proud of that stuff.
I have so many thoughts right now.
Do you need a break?
I think we need to take a break because no, I just there's so many things I'm thinking of, and some of them are marketing related. Some of them are total cost of ownership coming from a software background. And you think about it, like when your kid is, about to go into a competitive age range, 9v9, even 7v7. If you map out what you're paying over the next 8 years or 9 years before they go to college, that's a good question to ask. Okay, is it worth it for me to do this? And if the answer is only if a college scholarship is at the end, then maybe you shouldn't do it.
Rethink it.
But if it's, man, this is time I get to spend with my kid and my kid's friends and their parents, and they get to build team, awareness and all the different skills, that's an investment. But it's not an investment with a return of actual dollar to dollar.
Yeah, you kind of alluded to the giving back. The shoe drives and the tournaments for the inner cities and shipping the gear overseas. Like, that's really accelerated the last 10 years or so, really, at the club, and it's really amazing. We can talk about some of that. I do want to take a quick break so that we can get some more of that lovely, crisp Zwickle lights. Going to roll out with a little Tyler. When we come back, we're going to be talking about how good the club really was. We're going to talk about STLFC. You name dropped Mr. Allenball. We got to poke the bear a little bit more there. We'll talk about TPI and a little bit more. Got to ask the Slice a question too. So coming down the pipe, more Pat Barry. Take a quick break. When we take our break, like, review, follow, share. See you on the flip side. Hey, coaches, do you need new drills, some more structure, a little help preparing for the evening because, work, life, and stuff? Here's a little help from Soccer Coach Weekly with ready-to-go drills and practice plans that have been trusted since 2006. And here's the deal. Soccer Dad Pod listeners, you will get 50% off a full year of premium access. So go to the Soccer Coach Weekly link in the show notes and use code SDP50. That's SDP50 for 50% off. Plan fast, coach smart. Get your time back, and let's go. All right, we're back. I'm all over the board today. I'm staying in the country lane, but this time I'm going puppy, little baby band here. This kid's good, too.
Who is this?
Waylon Wyatt.
Waylon Wyatt.
Yeah, I love.
I feel like he made up that name.
Yeah, I don't think he did actually. I think he's a true Waylon Wyatt. I believe he's from Oklahoma. So
okay,
that might make sense, right?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, this kid's good. I heard him on Spotify a while back, and I was like, oh, I like that sound, right? And then my sons went to go see him at Ballpark Village for like $20. Kid's blown up. So there you go, soccer mom sitting in line wondering. There you go. Listen, there you go. Okay. You'll like it. This part right here. Right? Tap your toe.
Yeah, no, it's good.
There you go. Just don't tap that Suburban gas, in line there. You'd be bumping somebody. We're coming back here. We got Pat Barry on the on the line here. Actually, he's not on the line.
Can I ask Pat a really strange question?
Well, of course.
To kind of kick things off.
What we do here, man.
Because we've been talking about the club stuff and the pay-to-play. There's one area of the club scene that it feels like it's recently emerged, and you might not be able to talk about it, but it's stay to play. And what I mean by that is these tournaments that we get into.
Oh, I can talk about that.
And then we have to stay at one of these preferred hotels, and it's supposed to be some sort of logistical benefit and pay benefit, but it never is. It always feels like it's now. Let me clarify. If we're talking about an individual club going to an individual game at a city and that's booked and you can use their room rate. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about going to these MLS Next events or USL events where there's a block of hotels and you need to stay in one of those. That frustrates me.
How big of a deal is that?
Huge. It's huge. And so that was one of the things that Mitch Bonak and I did together when I first got there, and that whole industry has changed from the CVC, Convention Visitors Commission, whatever initials you want to use, who didn't really enforce things, tried to collect a little bit of money, and it was very loose, to companies who do it. And companies had contracts and they enforced it. And so I remember when Mitch and I took the plunge and went with a company called THS. I'm going to plug them because, in my opinion, they're the best out there. It's scary. It's scary because these are your people coming to your tournaments. That's really where you're making your money.
Yep.
The tournament stuff is just additional. And so we thought, oh boy, if we screw this up, they're not going to come to our tournaments. Well, thankfully we picked the right company. I know what you're saying. There's some really bad ones out there. And I would implore people who run clubs, do your homework, because a lot of companies promise a lot. They treat your customers terribly, and then you end up losing customers, and the hotels end up hating them.
When you say customers, who's the customer? Just for those listening.
The teams coming into town, because the worst thing you want if you're running a tournament is for the parents to complain that they had a bad experience going to St. Louis, going to Kansas City, wherever. So THS, I mean, of course there were times when they had to enforce the rules and people didn't like them. Mm-hmm. But that group, we were very fortunate. I mean, my God, I'll bet it's 15 years now that at least Gallagher's been using them, and they're a national company. And I just took my daughter somewhere, and it was one of the worst experiences, and it was terrible. So who you choose matters, but it's a big financial piece for what's going on.
And does that financial piece, that benefits the club as well? Are they getting?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's what I figured was going on.
And overrides.
Kickbacks and
let's use the word rebate, because that made me feel better. Let's use
whatever. This is an explicit show.
Rebate.
You paid the VIG. Parents are paying the VIG.
No, I appreciate you answering that, because again,
Right?
Every experience is different, but it is a big topic on, we talked about Reddit earlier. There's a college soccer, there's a youth soccer subreddit. And I would bet one of the number one complaints from
I believe it.
That is our club is doing this tournament in a foreign, different city.
Right.
And we have to stay at one of these hotels. They're not close to the fields. They're more expensive than an Airbnb or than a hotel I can use my points for. And it's just, So
can I add something on that real quick?
Please do.
So I think one of the things that again, I'm plugging THS, but one of the things that they did that was super important to Mitch and I was, in the agreement, the rate that our people paid had to be the lowest rate they advertised. So in other words, a person couldn't go to the front desk and say, I've got Expedia here for $99, you're charging me $150, because we said that's what's going to lose people. And so the services who do that and enforce that, it's really, really important, so that people, it might be some logistical issues, but at least they're getting a very fair rate, or the fairest rate possible. I don't know that hotels are fair anymore, but so it's really important.
Well, thank you for indulging me on that random side question.
Yeah, the underbelly, right?
But it's still related, right? It's still, again, that total cost of ownership, because you want that club experience. It's not just going to games on Friday nights and doing trainings.
I think the bigger issue is when you get into the showcase world and the quote national tournaments that are really just sprayed everywhere. It's the off days. It's the spacing. Because you go back 20 years, 25 years, whatever. Hell, go back 15 years, right? If you have a tournament, usually it's a 2-day tournament. Might be a rare 3-day tournament. Okay, so you play Friday night, you play Saturday, you play Sunday morning if it's a 3-day. If you win your group, you're going to be playing that afternoon, right? 4 games, 3 days. And you go a little bit further back in time, you're going to play 2 on Saturday, 1 Sunday morning. You might even have a semifinal and a final on the same Sunday. You could have 5 games in 2 days, right? Those kids were also 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids, right? There's not a lot of difference. So it just feels as if this approach and attempt to, we need to protect bodies.
Yeah,
it's a
There's
money.
a soccer element to that's driven those longer stays. And
Yeah.
Don't kid yourself. If a family stays there for 5 or 6 days, there's more hotel stays. There's more everything.
100%. All of that.
That's the business part. And if it's handled wrong, it can feel icky.
Yeah.
For sure.
Which is why we have playoffs in every major American sport.
Yeah. Like hockey has 3 months of playoffs.
Hockey and NBA, their season is, I think it's almost as long as the MLS season.
Yeah, it's
on its
awful.
own, just the playoffs.
Let's move into the USL world.
Oh, yeah.
STLFC. That popped up. That percolated under your umbrella time. That was huge news when you guys broke that loose, bringing the USL team here. Talk about the thought process, or maybe the strategy, or maybe the wish list, right? That made that happen, because obviously Kavanaugh and Strunk and those guys were leading the charge, but you guys were operating it as well. So when the idea came to the table, like, hey, how about this? And they obviously have the ability to pull it off, and you pulled it off. What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, I'll go back to the start. So the whole thing got created, and we may have talked about this when I was on the last time, but someone called, and it kind of relates to what you said about the financial instability. Somebody called and wanted to place a team at the soccer park. They were going to buy a USL club. They were going to place there as an out-of-town investor. And by the way, those are the ones that fail
right.
most of the time. Now, I'm going back to 2015. Things have gotten a lot better since then, 2013 probably. But we got the call, and so I called Tom Strunk, and I just said, hey, this is what's going on. And he said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, if this is going to happen, it should be a local group. It shouldn't be, somebody from out of town. Who knows? It could go away in the middle of the night and those kinds of things. So Tom said, well, why don't you just talk to the league and see what's going on? So I flew down to Tampa and met with the league. And actually, Kalish was coaching SIU. He happened to be in Tampa as well. Oh, wow. So we met at a hotel, and we were working together, but we just happened to meet down there. And I remember him and I both talking, saying, this could be kind of cool. I don't know. So I took it back, and I think Jim and Tom, for all the vision they have, I think they realized that maybe it was time. Maybe it was time to try to get us back on the map, and that was our rallying cry the whole time, putting St. Louis back on the map. And so, we went through a year process. The league came in and visited us, and of course they were, tripping over themselves to get us St. Louis in the league. And we had a lot of long debates about whether, a youth club, a nonprofit youth club, should do it. Personally, I was excited. I'd already done it. I'd already been on the program with the Ambush when there was no outdoor, so it didn't scare me. I knew how much work was there, but it didn't scare me. And so a lot of things happened. A lot of discussions happened. I remember some really funny board meetings with Gallagher, with debating whether we should do this or not. But ultimately, the decision was to do it, and yeah, it's one of probably the proudest moments of my career, is that now we see what we have today. I wish they won more games, but yeah, it's super cool to see that stadium.
So let's talk about season 1, game 1. I'm sure you remember it. You guys had the infrastructure already built, right? You have Soccer Park. You had a lot of the infrastructure from a people perspective, staff, coaches, et cetera, because you built this thing from within. A lot of the names that were on the roster were local names. There wasn't a ton of surprises for the most part. But game 1, and here comes the crowd, talk about that first game and what it meant to you to see the activation in real time.
I mean, it's like anybody who's built something and then you see it realized. I think for me, it was standing in the beer garden and looking out and seeing the stands filled and our team on the field and 2 years worth of work. And guys like Brandon Barklage coming back home from, I think it was DC United. I may either Red Bull or DC United, but coming home and playing and that to me, what was the coolest part, and it was that throughout that experience, was the connection that people had with the club. And I think that's what makes soccer different and special. Jeremy was the biggest preacher of that. In a lot of ways, he formed my opinion of that more so than I had already. And from day one, that first game, I remember thinking, this is it. I think maybe we did something here.
Did you know? I mean, did you feel it out of the gate that, because you knew the community. We're not a normal soccer, quote, we're not a normal city, period, let alone when it comes to soccer. Because if you're looking at 5,000, 5,500 people, however many people were there for the first game, if I had to guess, 4,000 of them had played the game
and thought they could have played that night.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Was it maybe elevated pride, because this isn't just a new thing that's going to drop in the middle of Tulsa or another city. No offense, Tulsa, but you're not St. Louis. Did you know that you had eyeballs that were going to be sitting in those seats that knew the game? Was there any stress at all about pleasing the soccer populace, or was it just, you know what, we're moving forward?
I think that's always there. I think even with Gallagher, that pressure was there, right? Like, we on a Tuesday night, you're going to have hundreds of people there who played the game, and their expectations are simply higher. I probably didn't think about it a whole lot, other than I remember thinking that at the time, I think, and Jeremy probably kill me right now, but we probably only had 14 or 15 teams in the league, so there just wasn't much going on. MLS maybe had 20, so like we all of a sudden became part of the exclusive few who had a club, and I know we took that really, really seriously. Like, we cannot screw this up.
Did you know? Did you have the feeling, or was it discussed? And if you signed an NDA, I totally understand. Was test run for Cavs and Strunk, because MLS was always kind of a dream for the city.
Never came up. True story. No, and by the way, that's a testament to who Jim and Tom are. They made that decision in the moment because they said this is what's good for the city and for soccer in St. Louis and for the kids who are playing. They need to have something to strive for. And so, no. I mean, the MLS thing came along with that campaign that we went through and tried to get the vote in the city and Paul.
2019.
Yeah, you guys
17,
you guys had
can't remember Paul's name.
Well, you had the party at Amsterdam.
Yeah.
For 7 months of my life, my wife will tell you she didn't see me. I mean, it was work during the day, go to events at night. I was happy to do it. I think it was the hardest I worked. I didn't even know I was doing it because I loved it. But that was fun. It didn't make it, but it eventually happened, and so that's what's important. But no, Jim there was never a preconceived or a master plan. It was just, let's do the right thing.
Go ahead, Zach.
I love talking about those STLFC days, and I know I get a little nostalgic every time. I just think it was such a cool experience, and I think that's why you see the growth of USL across the country in some of these markets that just don't have any sort of pro soccer, and they're crushing it. Yeah. And it's the experience. It's the community, and I think if we can grasp onto that, nothing against the MLS, but if that really takes hold, I think it will change the landscape significantly.
Yeah, I want to bring it back to Alan Ball a little bit. Obviously, friend of all of us, friend of the show. When you look at USL right now and you see what he's doing as president of the league, right? Who he was cutting his teeth with you guys, with this team, and you see the expansion of their top divisions. You see almost daily on social media, there's another market that's like, hey, here's a new team, USL, and oh, by the way, here's a rendering of the soccer-specific stadium. Like, they just seem to be checking all the boxes. Talk about Jeremy for a second through the lens of what you're seeing from the USL and what they're being able to accomplish.
Well, first of all, I couldn't be happier for him as one of my better friends and colleagues. I mean, you talk about a guy who put in the work and had his own vision. I mean, from day one, when he moved from the youth ranks to the pro ranks, we were always having conversations, and he was always asking other people about, what do I need next? What do I need? Where do I need to shore up? And so very happy for him. But what's going on in USL? I think, now that we're 3 years on with City, and I'm free to say whatever I want. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Right. I think one of the huge differences between MLS and between USL is that connectivity with the fan. And there's some of that MLS can't help, right? Like, they're just big. There's a lot of money. There's going to be some distance, I think. But USL has done a really good job in all of their markets, most of their markets, of connecting with the fans, and it's just very relatable, and it's fun. And when we talked about the first game at St. Louis FC, I remember it was a soccer reunion and a soccer party, 16, 17 nights a year.
Every week. Yeah.
And that was the special sauce, right? Even if there was only 2,500 people there and it was hotter than hell and we lost, people had a good time. USL's good.
I met Josh Sargent, Tim Ream, and Alexi Lawless.
And the Stanley Cup trophy.
And I got to touch the Stanley Cup trophy all in one night.
Thank you, Jim.
I had tequila shots with Lawless. Ream and Sargent were still in training mode, so because they had games that week.
Right.
You hear that, Greg?
Yeah, thanks,
up your
Greg.
game,
Let's
Greg.
go, buddy. But yeah, it's such a cool thing, and I think we had the folks from ATAR on. It's a small club up in Belleville, and I mean these guys that are managing this club are mowing the lawns. They're picking up the laundry. They're doing all of it.
Look, that's a great reference because we interviewed them a little while back. I was intrigued because they were playing over at Althoff, training and playing. And
what league are they in? Do you know?
That Midwest Premier League.
Midwest Premier League.
And you go over there, and it's the local beautician who's helping fund the team, and it's the local siding guy, and they're all out there, and they bring a cooler of beer to practice to watch these guys. And to your point, like I think that's the secret sauce that made STLFC work. In addition to the fact, like, look, you got Soccer Park Field 1, and you got all these people that love the game, right? So you that's a cheat sheet. But what USL is doing is it's just going straight to the roots, and it's going to soccer fans. Mm-hmm. I feel like MLS is trying to convert more people than curate who they have, if that makes sense.
I think because they have to.
I mean, I understand that, but you got a 22,400 seat stadium, right? So it's not going to become 35. It's not going to be 50,000.
But here's the interesting thing, and Pat, you might know about this, but do you see the latest news from the MLS partnership? Do you see who they just signed for a multi-year huge
Mueller?
Walmart.
Walmart
just signed a massive deal with MLS partnership.
So you're going to have a fourth kit that's going to be exclusive through Walmart's?
They're doing
or Sam's Club.
Content creation. They're doing in-game experience. They're doing, and it's starting right after the World Cup. So they're taking advantage of the surge that's going to come from after next summer.
That's a merch play. I mean,
it's not just a merch play. They are building their own site for soccer merch.
Yeah.
But I think it's just more tapping into and getting their brand out to those types of players, supporters, et cetera.
Yeah, I would expect a part of that is Walmart trying to reach a higher income demo.
Yes.
Would be my guess.
Yes.
And so again, and that's the world I live in now, but like how that's activated and how that's executed makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. It's either going to feel corporate or it's going to how this is cool.
Yeah, well, I use it as a contrast.
Yeah,
because
to your point, you're talking about how does it fit? Because when I see Messi in a commercial with KFC or Doritos or Lay's or whatever it is he's doing,
Michelob Ultra,
that's not that's jumping the shark. Yeah. Messi's not sitting around eating Lay's chips,
exactly.
And I feel like this could be really kind of ugly if Walmart comes in and is like, no, you can park your Land Rover in these spots, right? It's a different demo.
It is. It's going to be quite a sight to see over the next 12 months because we are going to have the World Cup here, a variety of different markets. But I'm sticking to what I said earlier, which seems contrasting to what I just brought up with this MLS partnership, which
Don't
is
back down.
I'm not backing down. I think the growth of the game itself and the betterment of players in this country will be from the USL engagement of the experience.
Oh,
I just do. I think Soccer Park, we've traveled a lot. JB, Jared, and I. Pat, you have too. There are maybe 2 other facilities within the Midwest that I would choose to go watch a game over, not over Soccer Park. Soccer Park number 1, hands down. Bavarian in Milwaukee. That might be it, actually. But when people come here, even though they get their asses kicked by the Gallagher teams, they're having a good time. Soccer Park's nice. Place. It's comfortable. Yep. you can get a burger, you can get a drink, you can, there's seating everywhere. There's covered areas. It's just nice.
So let's talk TPI for a second, because that's the current endeavor. You're kind of taking this accumulated experience, successes and otherwise, from the soccer world, and you've transferred into your firm now, TPI. Take a second and just give a brief description as to, specifically on the sports side, what you guys are, what you focus on, what the the activations or the consulting or the strategy. What does that look like for a sports organization that you might work with?
No, absolutely. So when I decided to get out of the game, out of the club business and all those things, even before that time, I recognized that there was a need. You guys talked about earlier, clubs being run by soccer people that don't necessarily have all the business experience. And so there was a huge gap, and this isn't just about youth clubs, for the sponsorship side of the business. There's I don't even know how many, a ton of organizations that can't afford to go hire a true professional to do that work.
In-house.
Right. Don't have the ability to manage them in the right way or retain them. But they have an audience, and they have an audience that can be sold to sponsors to generate revenue, to further their mission, whatever that is. And our clients are all over the place. So what we do is we go into those situations where they're just not quite big enough. The Cardinals and the Blues, USL teams, all those, they have enough money to go build a staff. But we sit just below that, and we help them monetize their assets, and really it's eyeballs when it comes down to it, or for you guys it's ears, right? And so we do that. We put a strategy around it, and then we go to market, and then we try to sell it for them. And it's been crazy how fast it's grown, and how rewarding it is, because we're doing it for organizations that can't figure it out, even though they want to, and we kind of help them do that.
So you're a Gen Xer too. Let me ask how you manage within your firm. We grew up with newspapers, magazines, no devices, transferring. Oh, look, there's the internet. And then, there's Google. And now everybody's on their devices, and nobody's reading a newspaper or looking at billboards, or, there's a lot of diminished reality to traditional eyeballs, right? I call it the scrim world, right? So within a club or whatever, let's stick with soccer. What are some of the areas that you guys are looking at to, one, make clubs, more relevant, more aware, expand, grow, because it's a modern digital world. What are you seeing out there in real life?
So we talk about this every day, literally, and I think there's a renewed interest in, I would say, some of the old school assets, which are fixed signage, and some of the more traditional things that you see. But what we have to do is we have to blend that with the digital assets that are available. And a lot of our clients, again, think I'm going to go ridiculous, but think the Cardinals and think, a youth club, or, Veta Sports, or an indoor sports facility. When people buy from the Cardinals, there's an expectation, and that costs money to deliver on that expectation. They're going to need analytics and data and a ton of things. But when people buy at I'll call it the grassroots level, they know what they're buying. They don't expect that, because these companies can't afford, and I can't afford to provide all that. But what they do know is that I'll use Veta Sports. There's 3.5 million people that walk through those facilities every year, and they know if I go spend money here, I'm going to get seen. I might not get all the analytics on the backside that I'm getting from the Cardinals or the Blues. Mm-hmm. But with all disrespect to those two organizations, I can tell you the feedback we get is that they're way more comfortable with the purchases they're making with us, because the numbers are lower, right, and far lower, and so what I'm seeing is kind of a renewed interest in the more basic things, as long as we can layer in those digital assets with a reasonable amount of professionalism.
Yeah,
and that's what my firm brings, is because Joe, who's also running the facility, trying to sell sponsorships, can't deliver.
Who's also making their social media posts, who's also
and managing the maintenance crew, and all those things. Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
No, I think it's cool, and I think it's such an interesting part of we just, I was on the board at Pond Athletic Association for a couple of years. Wildwood had a no signage policy. Like you couldn't put
You NIMBYs out there.
Oh, it was so ridiculous. And I hope somebody's listening from Wildwood and they call me out. But you couldn't even put a sign on the fencing.
Right.
You couldn't have a sign above a certain height. You couldn't put lights on a sign at nighttime. Lafayette High School is in Wildwood. They have a marquee. It has to be the old school like vinyl letters on it because they can't use digital. They can't use lights because of these things. So as a business owner who's trying to get eyeballs and ears, I think, biting the bullet and going with a firm like yours just to know how to navigate those spaces, who knows those ins and outs of those different, municipal laws. It's a huge value. And I don't think we think about it too much as consumers. We just walk in and we see stuff. And we're like, oh, that's cool. Oh, I didn't think about that.
Right.
And it's the analytics you guys put into that, the time you put into it. It's really impressive. And I'm glad that you were able to kind of parlay, your experience with the club into an actual consultative business that's, providing, value to other companies. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So final question here is, when is USL hiring TPI?
More later.
Yeah, there we go. You heard that, Jeremy. We're talking to you. Well, Pat Barry, appreciate you coming on, man.
Thank you guys. It's been great.
We've been trying to make this happen for a little while. You're busy out there. We're all busy.
We're all busy.
But this is fun. This is a little off the main path of just talking about locker room shenanigans or ball busting stories. But I think it's an important aspect of the game that people really care about. They just don't know how to talk about it. And so I really appreciate you coming on, Pat.
No, happy to.
Been a lot of fun, man. Really appreciate it. We'll get this thing out the door, and I'm sure we'll see you around the park as well. Zach, well done today.
Thank you, sir.
Good job. Jared, missed you, buddy.
Always.
Like, review, follow, share. Soccer Dad Pod. Really appreciate all the support, guys. If you can drop one of those out there, it really helps us keep these conversations coming. In the meantime, we are out of here. I'm going to roll you out. A little Arkansas Diamond from Waylon White. I told you that's his real name. Check it out. See you next time. So keep on digging for this Arkansas Diamond.